now, as we have a series of lightning talks. So these will be, I'm hoping, about 5 minutes for each speaker. So I'm going to get us straight into it so we don't miss any of the content. I'm going to hand straight over to Rob Thompson. So Rob.
Brilliant, thank you. So I'm going to cover our key statistics. What I'm going to do, whereas the statistics that you've just seen covered the last financial year, I want to make it a little bit more recent. So I'm going to cover what we have achieved from January last year up until December. So you can get some really recent and good figures. Just before I go through these, I want to point out, because I think it's quite important, I'm going to keep these at a high level because all the speakers that are going to come across the rest of the morning are going to go into much more detail, and you've got brilliant stories like the one from Sandy. And I want to make it clear that all of this was achieved by a mix of staff and volunteers, because I really want to emphasize the importance of our volunteers. I work with them quite a lot, and they're absolutely brilliant, as are our staff. And also, as Sandy pointed out, a lot of this work was done directly with clients, so both remotely and face-to-face throughout the heights of the pandemic, which I'm really, really proud of, because that's a very stressful thing to do for a lot of advisors. And finally, I just want to point out, before we get into things as well, that at least 4 of our advisors do all of this with English as a second language. So I can just about advise in English, but imagine having to do that in a second language. That's an absolutely amazing achievement. So can I have the next slide, please, Tom? Thank you. So I'm going to try and keep really still because my chair is really creaky. But this is last year at a glance, and I think these are absolutely brilliant statistics. So we interacted with over 9,451 individual clients. So that might mean we might have spoken to them once or 3 times or 10 times. And this was over 10,900 cases. So that's almost 11,000 entirely separate issues. And that's for clients in Portsmouth and some of our more national services, such as Help to Claim across England and Wales. So it's absolutely brilliant. And this includes as well 18,000 telephone calls just to clients. That doesn't include any calls to creditors, to universal credit, or anything like that. And I think that's an absolutely staggering figure when you consider it. And I really want to point this one out because I think it's really good. You can see that although it looks really low, 4% of our clients came to us face to face. That is still hundreds of people throughout the pandemic, because as Sandy said, we kept our service available as much as we could with a drop-in service, with appointments throughout the pandemic. And for that many people to still be able to have access to us face to face is absolutely brilliant. Next slide, please, Tom. So I want to quickly cover some of our top issues. These are pretty much the same issues we always see. There's not been a real big change in terms of what forms our top 5 issues. So the big one for us has always been debt and finances because of our amazing money advice team. We get clients not only in Portsmouth, but from around. But I'm not going to go into that in any more detail because you've got that to come later. Welfare benefits, the main issues that we're seeing are the same ones we've seen previously, but compounded by issues such as the furlough scheme, lack of income, and more emergent issues. So it's claims for universal credit. And you may have seen him pop up earlier, and our brilliant welfare benefit specialist, Steve Newton, who helps people with their welfare benefit disputes, including up to representation at tribunal, which isn't something a lot of people can always access. Looking at housing, primarily we have the issues that if you're on our generalist service, you will know straight off. They are repairs in your private rented sector. They are your Section 21 notices, your no-fault evictions. And then you also have your disputes with landlords, other tenants and neighbours, which you find a big one. And just because I'm running over a little bit, I'll miss out family, but just to look at charitable support, just as an example of how the pandemic has changed things. For Trussell Trust alone, which is just one of the food banks, we went from 400 Trussell Trust food bank vouchers being issued in 2020 to 480 in 2021, which is a massive increase. And adding on all the other food banks we've built relationships with and made referrals with on top, that is a really, really big increase in charitable support, not even including things like applications for the Household Support Fund. So hate crime and discrimination is something I want to cover. I'm going to cover this very quickly because I thought I'd take about 3 minutes, but clearly not. The reason I want to cover this is because, firstly, we're a hate crime reporting centre. So for those of you that don't know, it means if anyone believes they're a victim of a hate crime and they don't want to approach the police, they can come to us and we will help them do that. We can help them report that. And additionally, the National Citizens Advice Equality and Diversity Plan means that we want to address discrimination and hate crime through good advice. So we're always looking out for it. And these are some worrying looking statistics in line with what Karen was saying at the start. A big increase in hate crime, gender violence and discrimination. A lot of that is down to the trends, but also due to the massive amount of work that our staff and volunteers have undertaken in making sure we identify and address this properly. And so very quickly, my final slide just before we move on is just looking at who our clients are. And you can see here that we get clients from all walks of life, essentially. We've got every age group. We've got clients who have health conditions, but those with long-term health and disabilities. And it's clear that a lot of these are because of the issues that arise. So those with health conditions or disabilities are more likely to require assistance because of navigating the welfare benefits system. Those who are working age are likely to be the ones with employment issues or, for example, working age benefits, which tend to be much more difficult to navigate because they're so complex. And we can see where we need to go forward. We need to carry on engaging even more with those who are over state pension age. So thank you very much for taking the time to listen to all of that. If you've got any questions, please pop them in the chat and we will deal with them later. And I'm going to hand over now to my brilliant colleague, Sharon. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. So my name's Sharon and I've been with Portsmouth Citizens Advice since 2009, working on their Macmillan project. Next slide, please, Tom. So what do? We are a Hampshire-wide service covering Hampshire, the Isle of Wight, Portsmouth and Southampton, and we provide dedicated advice to people affected by cancer who live or are treated in Hampshire. So we do this we have a direct referral system, and we also have an advice line that runs 9 to 4, Monday to Friday, where clients can access our service to receive advice over the telephone or to book an appointment at one of our outreach centres or be referred to their local caseworker who can book an appointment either in their office or we can arrange home visits. Next slide, please, Tom. So last year, the Portsmouth caseworkers, there's 2 of us, there's now me and my colleague Jen. We helped 900 clients last year and we achieved 2.4 million better off income for those clients. And that's through a mixture of disability benefits and grants and blue badges. Next slide, please. As people have been saying, Portsmouth were one of the quickest to return us to face-to-face advice, and this was done by making sure our offices were COVID secure and we quickly welcomed back clients into the office. This allowed us to meet people face-to-face, and also they allowed us, after doing risk assessments, to go out and see people in the community. Firstly, we were doing this in people's gardens, which was good in the summer, but not so good in the winter. But then once vaccinations were offered to us quite quickly, because we were a frontline service, we managed to see people in their own homes. And this case study just shows a little bit about the benefits of seeing people in their own home rather than just talking to them on the phone, because you get an idea of their whole family circumstances. And we went out and saw somebody who we thought we were just going to do a blue badge for, but we quickly realised that their partner would also qualify for a disability benefit. So we saw both of them, completed both benefits, and made the household much better off. We now, on all our emails, ask people to give us feedback on our service, and most people are saying that we're a great service. and that we do help them at a time of great need. The best part of working for Hampshire Macmillan and Portsmouth Citizens Advice is I become a member of 2 teams, so I get support for seeing clients, referring internally to the Money Advice Service. We've made referrals to the immigration team, and we work quite closely with Home and Well. And last slide, I think, or is that my last slide? And I'm now going to thank you for listening. I'm now going to pass you over to Phil and who's our immigration lead.
Thank you, Sharon. Good morning, ladies and gents. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Phil Marshall. I joined CAP in March last year as the Immigration Project Manager after a career in the corporate sector. It's been a challenging first 10 months, but anyone who knows me well knows I enjoy a good challenge. So Tom, next slide, please. Thank you. The refugee or asylum seeker journey is well documented. We've all seen the pictures across news outlets of individuals reaching our shores. The vast majority of those who settle in our community have fled violence and persecution and have suffered perhaps the most terrifying and psychologically damaging experience of their lives just to be here. It's acknowledged that first-generation migrants are at a higher risk of mental ill health and PTSD problems. And when faced with headlines such as those you see on the slide there, it's no surprise that the migrant population in our community can feel isolated, alone, and withdraw themselves to such an extent that they do not know where to turn to for much needed assistance and support. As we move to the next slide, what is CAP doing to support these individuals? Well, as a team, we understand for a lot of our clients, given the isolation and wellbeing issues that I've previously mentioned there, the prospect of coming into our office can be very daunting. So we took the bold decision a couple of months ago to take our immigration team out on the road. And we now offer our specialist services at a number of refugee outreach hubs across the city. In these more informal, safe and comfortable environments, we found that our clients' level of trust in us increases. So they tend to open up a lot more about other issues that they're facing, whether it be problems with their mental health, debt or housing issues. What we try to be always is to be as receptive as possible to our clients' needs, bringing in where we can other advisors from across the portfolio of services you're hearing about today in an attempt to give our clients an all-encompassing wraparound support service. So in essence, for a lot of our clients, their immigration issue is just the starting point of their journey with us at CAP. As we move to my final slide, what difference is this new approach making? Well, I hope you can see by the colourful graphics here that we are making a real impact. The graphic on the right shows that in 2021, we doubled the number of new clients we supported compared to 2020. But for me, it's the middle graphic that's the most telling, with around a third of all our new clients in the last 4 months coming directly from our community outreach programme. These figures show that our clients trust in our ability to provide the positive support and understanding that they need, and we will continue to do what we can for them in 2022 and beyond. Thank you for listening. I'll now hand you over to Sarah Atkinson, our Home and Well advisor.
Hello and good morning, everybody. Next slide, please. Thank you. My name is Sarah Atkinson and I'm the Home and Well advisor here at Citizens Advice Portsmouth. There's a lot of information already on the slide, but essentially I started as a volunteer just 1 day a week and over time joined the administration and triage teams as well as the communications team as a regular contributor to social media and our community news articles. My spare time activities are there. I'm not going to go into those. Next slide, please. Thank you. So that's me, but what is Home and Well? Home and Well started early in 2020 and it is funded by the energy and utility companies, but it is a collaborative project. And this is between Citizens Advice Hampshire, the NHS Clinical Commissioning Group, Southern and Portsmouth Water, SSEN, which is your Scottish and Southern Electricity Network, and the Southern Gas Network. Excuse me. The project name, Home and Well, is really a clear indicator of what this is really about. And the focus is about keeping people well and ideally thriving in their home environments, and with a particular emphasis on fuel poverty. The project supports vulnerable adults in our community, and there are many reasons and things that might cause us to believe a client is vulnerable. And especially with this project, we look at clients who are at risk of hospitalisation or readmittance, or if they are about to be discharged, or if they have recently been discharged. This makes it critical for them. Other reasons may be that they lack essential life skills, need additional support, or have recently suffered a traumatic experience or a loss. Excuse me. I think why it's important to focus on vulnerable people is because they are at a higher risk of harm. They potentially have less financial security and often need advocacy and additional support quite broadly. Next slide, please. Thank you. So how do we help our Home and Well clients? I'm going to put, the slide is all about fuel poverty, and I'm going to talk alongside that. There's a lot of information you don't need to know at all. Essentially, when a client is referred to us, or if we identify them as vulnerable ourselves, or a social prescriber may refer as well, we carry out the fullest possible exploration of the client's full circumstances. We identify elements of fuel poverty and assist as a priority for this project, but we also identify any other impacting issues and provide very much a holistic approach and wraparound support. I think you've heard that term before with Phil. We give a general advice service and a specialist advice service where it's needed. This can be help with housing, immigration, benefits, debt and money advice, families and relationships, and beyond. It goes on and on. We also refer and signpost our clients to ensure they are given access to additional specialist services and anything else they need. The positive impacts of Home and Well. We're able to reduce a client's anxieties and concerns. We enable people to be able to focus more on their recovery and less on the worries of their environment around them. We help ensure that their home is efficient, comfortable, safe, and more stable. We achieve this by finding ways to maximise their income and save money. That's through discounts, benefits checks, making sure they're getting everything they're entitled to, and additional support where it's available, including grants. We work to improve home efficiency and their living conditions, and if that means a referral to external services like Switched On Portsmouth, or help with warming their home, there's many things that we can do to assist. And we assure that all the appropriately identified support is in place to improve our clients' ability to cope and to help them feel better. Next slide, please. With more people living with fuel poverty and in increased hardship, and from all the things that we've already covered this morning, the Home and Well project plays a vital role in supporting well-being. This is by identifying and addressing the critical issues that serve to further threaten the most vulnerable people's physiological needs, and ensuring that better support is in place for them for the future. I'd now like to give you just a few moments to consider the slide in front of you. I appreciate there's an awful lot to take in. This case study reflects the often complex issues that a vulnerable client may come to us with. And in turn, it shows the broad range of support and advice that's necessary to make a positive and hopefully a lasting difference, which can ultimately enable a client to feel well and remain well. Thank you very much for listening to my lightning talk. I'm now going to hand you over to my colleague Selina from our Positive Minds team.
Hiya, I'm Selina. I came to Citizens Advice Portsmouth in 2019 and worked out on reception, did some administration, and then started working speaking to clients that were phoning in on the information points. I then went on maternity leave and came back as a Positive Minds advisor in April. I love my role at Citizens Advice, and I'm going to tell you a bit about the Positive Minds project. There's a bit of information about me. Could I have the next slide, please? So Positive Minds, it's a new style service to help people who feel the need to have help with their emotional and mental health. They offer support for citizens in Portsmouth, PO1 to PO6, and they can refer to people such as Talking Change. Next slide, please. So as a Positive Minds advisor, I'm funded to help referred clients for things like housing. So I can help with housing options, referring for homelessness, repairs, problems with the landlords. I can help relationships. It covers domestic violence, relationship breakdowns, children. Can refer into our money advice project. Can talk about benefits and tax credits with clients, financial capability as well to make sure that they have the right benefits that they need. And we can, I also talk to clients that walk in if they're vulnerable and need support. Next slide, please. So one of the clients that we've recently seen, he came in because he didn't feel safe. He was a member of the community and had been referred to mental health services previously, but had been discharged. We assisted the client with a referral to the community mental health team. They were actually really good. They agreed to see the client the day that we called them and sent a taxi to collect the client. The client then returned to us at future dates, and we helped them with money advice and with grants for white goods, and did a welfare benefit check. But the client was really pleased and happy and doing well. But yeah, that's a bit about me. I'm just going to pass over to my colleague Donna.
Thanks, Selina. Good morning, everybody. Sorry about the camera here. It's not very bright. There we go. That's better. So good morning. Yes, my name's Donna. I'm a part-time generalist advisor for the Forces Families Project. I've been working at the Citizens Advice Portsmouth since 2008 and the Forces Families Project since 1st of August 2021. I work as a generalist advisor, helping clients with their debt and financial management issues. As you can see, I have some interests, one of them being football. The claim to fame was England. 2018, whilst others were working, I was in the front page of the Evening News. Next slide, please. Forces Families Project. Who are we and what do we do? We're an Armed Forces Covenant funded project that's been working since October 2018. It is delivered in partnership by Citizens Advice Hart, Rushmore Citizens Advice and Portsmouth Citizens Advice. We aim to help serving personnel and their families. We do this by partnering with the welfare teams and other partners to provide independent, confidential advice and support to serving personnel and their families across Hampshire. We are facing low health and wellbeing as they deal with the life-changing events. The main topics and issues that we cover are housing, relationships, debt, benefit and tax credits, and financial capability. Next slide, please. Case study. It was Christmas and our client was referred to us for urgent support with food voucher and fuel voucher. After talking to the client, we discovered they didn't have the means to heat their food or water. The client had recently transitioned from being street homeless into social housing. As you're aware, there's a lot of that going on. A food fuel voucher was issued to the client and a request was made to the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Community Fund to purchase a microwave and kettle for the client. These items arrived at the client's flat in time for Christmas. Our client was overwhelmed by the speed of our assessment of their situation and the actions taken to support their needs. Additionally, the client was set up with appointments for longer term support whilst the universal credit claim is also being supported. Thank you. Next slide. Over to my colleague, Jan Thomas. Thank you.
Jan, you're on mute.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Jan Thomas, and I'm the Business Development Manager for Citizens Advice Portsmouth. And my role involves generating income so that we can be securely funded and finding ways that we can improve the service for our clients and our customers. I've had a sort of a corporate background, thought I was going to retire, volunteered for a while. Sandy interviewed me, and as the rest of us, they say, is history, and I've got sucked into Citizens Advice now. I absolutely love it. I'm finding that I'm able to use all my skills and abilities, so it's been a great path for me. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'm going to tell you about a project that we undertook to do with the relationship between debt and mental health, and Dr. Tom Richardson later in this meeting is going to talk about this in some detail. But last year we became aware anecdotally about the link between people that were phoning up with debt problems and also disclosing to us that they had mental health issues. We were becoming more and more concerned about this, so we decided to try and gather some empirical data and managed to get some funding from the National Lottery to undertake this mental health Ask project. And the reason it's called Ask is because when a client approaches us for debt advice, we actually ask them how their debt is affecting their mental well-being. And this today is all about well-being, so this is a very relevant topic to include. So the project ran between December and April last year. It wasn't just people phoning up about debt, there were high levels of unemployment as well that were linked to high suicide rates. We were very lucky in that we had bespoke expert training developed by mental health professionals to identify that the client was in emotional distress, and also to give our advisors the confidence to undertake this discussion. You can understand how some advisors might balk at asking people about, could you potentially, risk harming yourself? But the training that we gave them made them much more robust and confident in asking those questions. So in the pilot trial, the questions were asked at the start of the advice session, and then after a 3 or 4 week period, we followed up and seen the outcome and measured the outcome of those. Because what happened was that if they disclosed that they did have poor mental health, we would then signpost them to a mental health professional for help. Next slide, please. Thank you. So we were lucky enough to get our evaluation done by Dr. Jessica Banks, a young registrar who was actually looking for an evaluation project, so that was incredibly lucky. That was just a bit of good synergy. But the results of the survey that we undertook and the study that we undertook identified that there is in fact a high unmet need for mental health support amongst this client group. The clients found the ask acceptable, and they did act upon the advice given on the whole. So the study concluded that there's an opportunity to help individuals to access appropriate and timely mental health services, and most importantly, without the use of a general practitioner. So if we were to expand this approach and roll it out to other organisations, we think there's a huge benefit of saving GP resources. Next slide, please. So we only had a small study in phase 1, so we got some more money this year from the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Sustainability and Transformation Partnership Prevention Programme. That's quite a long title, but basically it was a fund that was looking for ways to prevent suicide. So we thought that this actually matched quite well under the criteria. So the communities that we're trying to reach within this project are those that have mental health issues but who already come to us for support. with debt, but this time we're actually including all clients that approach us. Clients who may be struggling with a psychological health that's exacerbated by debt, and we will ask them to self-refer. We will signpost them to an agreed process for mental health support to catch people early before there is a crisis. Next slide, please. So our aim is to get a much wider reach of respondents to the survey. Last time we only had a 3-month survey. This time it's a year-long project with a 6-month operational period. The design and evaluation, I'm delighted to say, will be carried out by Dr. Thomas Richardson, who you'll hear from later, in conjunction with ourselves. And the aim is to provide enough data to persuade citizens, advise national organisations that this is an important and acceptable way of probing for mental health from debt clients, and to make sure that they get the help that they need. I think that's me. The next slide, please. Yes, hand over to Denise McGarry now. Thank you very much.
Morning, everybody. Next slide, please, Tom. My name's Denise. I've been working with Citizens Advice Portsmouth since September 2008, and during this time I've had the pleasure to work on a number of different CA projects and with some lovely people. The Royal British Legion was one, Positive Minds and Joining Forces for Families, and of course the Money Advice Pension Service before becoming the Money Advice Manager in March 2021.
Hello everyone, I'm Ian. I've been working with Citizens Advice since August 2012, having previously worked for the commercial and retail banking sector with Lloyds for close to 30 years. Started out as an administrator with the Debt Advice Project back in 2012, then became a fully qualified money advisor. And since the end of September 2020, I've been the Quality and Compliance Officer, focusing the support for the money advice team run by MAPS.
Thank you. Next slide, Tom, please. So who are we? The Money and Pension Service is sponsored directly by the DWP, established at the beginning of 2019, which is combining the Money Advice Service, Pension Wise and the Pension Advisory Service, and is the largest funder of the debt advice in England. And what do we do? The MAPS Money Advice team at Citizens Advice Portsmouth is made up of qualified or accredited money advisors. We help people, particularly those who are in need, to improve their financial well-being and build a better, more confident future by providing a specialist debt advice service to individuals how and when they need it. Thank you. Next slide.
Okay, everyone. We basically operate under two contracts. One's the mainstream contract, which encompasses face-to-face, telephone, email, and other digital forums that come our way. We also operate under a national web chat contract where our advisors operate on a daily basis, supporting the national web chat service. In terms of clients, as you can see there on the mainstream, from April to December, we amassed 1,422 clients, and that was against a target of 1,436. So we were virtually 100%, we're 99%, and at the moment we're in the top 7 of 17 in the southeast. In terms of the web chat contract, you can see there that we are 100%. We've hit 1,978 clients against a target of 1,976. So you can see that we are helping a phenomenal amount of clients across both platforms and both contracts. In terms of the types of issues that we see, the main focus, you're looking at council tax arrears, including bailiff action for enforcement of that. You said we see quite a lot of unpaid parking penalties, which again can ultimately end up with enforcement action if the client does nothing with them. And other than that, you're looking at the main things like credit store cards, personal loans, other debts and stuff like that. So, you know, it's quite a wide range of debts that we have to cover off, but those are the main focuses. In terms of channels used by clients, with COVID, obviously, and the remote working and the initial closure of the face-to-face, that sort of dropped away quite significantly. But with the telephone system that we had in place, you know, we can see there that we've, you know, sort of over half of our client contacts are via telephone, a quarter are by web chat, and the other 19% or so add up to email and all the other contracts. So you can sort of see the wide, you know, areas in which we cover the you know, client needs. Next slide, please, Tom. No one money advice client is the same as another, but there may obviously be similarities. This is a flavour of the type of work our advisors support clients with. And as you can see there, this case study shows that a client phoned into the service and presented with several non-priority debts with the threat of court action present. Client lost their job due to COVID-19 and is only receiving welfare state benefits at this particular time. Client's debtness was about 15,000 across 2 credit regulated debts and 1 non-regulated debt. And one of those creditors was looking to escalate the recovery of the debt through the civil money claim process in the county court, which would ultimately lead to a county court judgment, as CCJ, as we all know. The advisor, you know, fully explored the client's situation, carried out a financial assessment, including income maximisation. All the debt options would have been assessed, and obviously consequences of non-payment would have been advised to the client. In this particular case, the client was supported in the completion of a response to the creditor with a court claim and empowered to contact his other declared creditors to make equitable pro rata payments to each one going forward, because it was obviously determined that they had sufficient monies to do so. Overall, the client was impressed with the nature of the advice that we provided and helped him resolve the matter, which had become overwhelming for him. In a similar situation, other options may be recommended, such as forming insolvency options like a debt relief order, but our skilled, you know, and fully trained money advisors are there to explore the client's situation, you know, understand all their circumstances and look to find out what support is necessary, and eventually determine what the client's best options are for dealing with their debts going forward. That's basically in a nutshell. So thank you very much for listening. I'll hand you back to Tom.